In the previous lesson, I've told you how to make the custom claim for each specific user by hard-coded their user ID. But this time, I will teach you how to do the role checking by using this custom claim. For example, not all the members can go to this page. They need to be the role of the administrator in order to get this page. So the next step we are going to do is making the role checking function by using our offend custom claim. So let's do it. In order to make our code much structurable, so we want to use a router manager to manage all the routers in the app.js. So we first create the router manager in the layout folder. So we first create our router manager folder, and also we add the router manager.js. So this router manager will be manage all the routers in our app.js. So in the router manager, we first make it into a stateful component. So we add component from VS package, and also we need to import our browser router as the router. So what we have done in the previous is browser router as router. So we do the same thing. And also we need to include the switch and router from our we add router DOM. Okay, so the next step we're going to do is make our class, which is a router manager, extend component, and make the state and our render method. In here, we want to put all the things from the app.js into our router manager. So we just copied from the switch. So in here, we copy it all and go to our router manager and place it. So make sure our package is also included. Otherwise, you need to include for yourself. Oh, it should be route, not router, and it should be with router, because we want to use state, our offend state, in each router here. So, and that's why we need to export our class component. So we type export default our router manager. But in this time, we also want to receive our props from our provider in the app.js. And that's why we have import our with router component in here. And also what we're going to do is we need to include our enhance. So we can go to our heading.js because we have do it before, and we can just copy the whole statement in here and go to our router manager and paste it. Remember to replace heading to your router manager. So in here, what we're going to do in this router manager is we are going to receive the firebase of an object from our connect. So this connect is referencing our provider in the app.js. In here, we will also include the connect from the VS readers. So make sure you have import all the required package for yourself. last but not least, we need to import our router manager in the app.js. So we enter import router manager from our layout folder and router manager folder and the router manager.js. So please remind that you don't need to specify .js file, so you can just directly write the file manager without extension. So in here, we also import the file manager in here. Okay, in here, our heading is also included in the router. So we put the heading in our router manager. So we put it before the switch statement. It is because we don't want to switch our heading, which means we only keep the heading in every page we are going to do. So in here, we can just make it router manager inside the router is enough. Okay, so go back to our router manager. So what we are going to do is get the state in here. So before that, we have included the with router here. We need to also include the with router in the enhanced component, which is also an high order component. Otherwise, we cannot receive our state and the router state in this component. So we paste our with router component here and wrap it for our component. So be reminded that with router should routed in our router manager and enhance should be routed in our with router component. And also what we are going to do next is doing our role checking. So to do that, we need to create a new method outside our router manager class. This method is doing the role checking. So in here, we create a new function called admin only because we are going to check the admin. In the admin as the parameter, so what we are going to put is first we are going to put our component. So why we need to put the component inside a function is that because there may be a different role, maybe a different pages for different role, which means if this is a admin, we will provide the admin component to him. Otherwise, we may provide the default component. So we can think that in the e-commerce website, we will provide the front end for the user, and for the back end, we will only provide the back end function to our admin. So that's why we're going to put our composite component. So we're going to put our React component in these functions. And also we put our orphan object because we need to do the role checking. So in here, we create a new class. We call admin only. We also extend the component. So this class is inside the function, and we will call this function in our router later on. So you need to create a function, and after we do the router, we will call this function in every router. So in here, our class admin only will contain our constructor and the state. In the state, we need to import props. Okay, so in the state, we will have a attribute called isPass. This attribute is used to determine whether this user is passed to go to the admin only page. Okay, and the next step we are going to do is we call the component with a month, which is used to do the function here before our render method. So the execution cycle is that for the React app, we first do the constructor function in every component. Then we were going to execute the component with a month. Then we were going to execute the component did a month. Last but not least, we were going to execute our render method. So this component with a month is used to do the function before our render method. So this is better than for us to do the role checking inside the component with a month. So in here, we're going to do the role checking. We first use the if statement to check whether our offend object is empty. If this is empty, which means the passed offend user is not our admin, because our admin need to provide their offend object to prove that he is admin. And that's why in here, if this is not empty, then we will keep doing role checking. Otherwise, we can restrict the user to the login page. So in here, we can type this .props.history.push.login. So which means the user will going to restrict to the login page if the user cannot provide their offend object. That means the user haven't logged in. So after, if the user is logged in, and we were going to do the check. In the next step we are going to do is to do the role checking. Before that, we need to import our Firebase package. But this time we use the default Firebase package because we want to use some function for the Firebase package. So we import all as Firebase from the Firebase package, which is the Firebase team provided for us. This is not our config folder here. This is not our config. So this package is from the Firebase. So because we are going to use our role checking, so we input firebase.offend function, then the Firebase will give us our offend object, and we want to get the current user offend object and get the ID token result. We receive the ID token from this Firebase user, and in here we will return our then method, and we will receive a ID token result as the parameters. So in here we can do the role checking inside the then functions. So we can check our token by using if statement. If the ID token result .claims .type is equal to administrator, we have assigned the claim in the previous lesson, so we can get the type in these functions. So if this is administrator, so we set the state is passed to true. That means the user is the administrator, and later on, if the user is passed, we will provide him to the admin page. Otherwise, they may restrict to the login page. So we also handle it. What if the user is a normal user, not a administrator? Maybe the user haven't assigned the claims. So in here, we can just easily to restrict the user to the login page, because we don't want to let the user who are not admin to go to this page. So we do the same thing for our empty. So we finished our component with a month, and last but not least, we do our render method. In the render method, we will determine whether the user is passed or not. If user is passed, we will restrict the user to the admin page from our composite component. Oh, it should be no end here. Composite component. That means our admin page. Otherwise, we were going to restrict to the login page. But in here, there are only two options. The first option is pass. The second option is we don't know whether it's pass. What does that mean? Because we do execution, we are executing our get the token result function may require a time. That means we cannot determine whether the user is passed or not in the instantly we enter this page. So if the user is not admin, we're going to restrict the user to the login page. Otherwise, if the user haven't turned it to the true, they may not is not an administrator, and that's why we need to handle this case. So we can easily to do here by using our if checking here. So in here we can use our conditional statement here. So if this dot stay is passed, so we will return our composite component to the user. Otherwise, they may checking for the row, and that's why we will return a div, and in here we will type checking, because we may not know whether this is finished or not. If this not admin, we will restrict the page. If is keep in this page, they may be an administrator. In here we need to enter our return here. Okay, so in here we want to pass our props in this component. Otherwise, this component won't have a props. What we're going to do is we can pass the location from our props. We can also pass the history. This history is if in this composite component we are going to restrict the user to other page, we need to pass the props in here. Otherwise, they may not receive the props because we use the function for the row checking. Last but not least, we also pass the offend object, because after we pass the component, the admin component, to the user, our props will not exist because we use the function to make it separately. Okay, so in here we will pass the composite component. So we finish here. Then we're going to jump out for our code for the routers. So we don't want to let the user go to the login page directly. What we are going to do is doing the row checking before let the user to go this page. So firstly, we first delete this new article, because we need to check whether this is admin before they go to this page. So in here we can have a component. Component is the same of if we use it directly to enter our new article. It's as the same as what we are going in here. But here is this is a JavaScript expressions, and this is the L function to return the component. And in here we can use our function we have created in here. So in here we can type admin only. In here we can put our new article as the composite component if this is admin. And the second parameters is this dot props dot offend. Okay, so when the user they go to the path to the new article, they will first execute the admin only function, which means the class we have created, and we will check the role before they can access to the component we have passed it as the parameters. So we can do the same thing for different pages by using the same function here. Okay, so after we have done this page, and then we save it, and let's see what happened. Okay, we go here and we refresh it, and we haven't logged in, and we go to the new article. It should be restricted to our login page. So we can okay, so the system haven't restricted us for the login page. So let's go back to the code to see, and what we are missing is our return function. Our return. We need to return our component because this is function, right? So we need to return our class component in this function. So before the end of this function, we will return the admin only component, which is referencing the class component here. So we save it, and we go back to our Chrome. So we go back to home page. If we haven't logged in, we go to news article, and we will restrict it to our login page. Okay, so we try login, and we're going to log in our app. So after we have logged in it, and we check the state, our state and our claim is our type is administrator. So we go to our news article. Okay, so we will restrict it to the login page. So it seems this is a problems for our code. So let's see what happened. So it seems I'm figuring out the problems. So in our router manager, first we will going to execute our console.not in the random method, which means if the state is changed, our random method will also be rendered. So which means if our console.log have been executed in different time, which means our state is changed. So if you go to our Chrome, so you can see that we refresh it. So in the 9.16.6, what we are going to output is this.props.of an object, but you can see in the same page our state is changed. So in here, this is our props.offend. So in here we can see is loaded attribute is false, which means our props.offend haven't loaded already. But in here, in the same line, we outputting the same things. In here, our is loaded is true. That means why we go to the new article and we were going to restrict it to the login page. It is because we haven't finished loading our of an object. So we go back to our code to fix it. Okay, to fix it is very easy. So we need to make sure we have loaded our offend object before we go to the switch statement. In here, we can have our query basis to execute JavaScript in the return method. So we're going to check if this .props .offend object is loaded. So we will return our switch component. Otherwise, we return nothing. We return nothing to the user. So because loaded offend object is a very quick moment, and the user won't see the difference in the prompt switching. So if we have received the offend object and then we pass the offend object to the admin only function. So let's see the result. So we go back to our Chrome. So we refresh it. We go to the main page, and I have logged in it for our prompts, and we click new article, and you can see our new article page is loaded because we have received our offend object before we go to our admin only functions. So we finished the tutorial today. So in the next tutorial, we will continue to editing our article and creating our articles. Also, please stay tuned. Clipversity is a self-learning platform with knowledge-based recommendation systems, providing a personalized learning experience for the self-learner and the school students. People could share their knowledge and exchange for the rewards. We are doing the next generation learning tools for the next generation of learners.